You know, it's breakfast time with the fat man again. I got myself some really nasty little things here that are like 10,000 calories and they're addictive as all get out. I don't recommend eating things because once you start, it's hard to lay off of them. You know, I got a question from a very good friend of mine who just recently viewed my last video, Breakfast with the Fat Man, and asked the question, "What do you mean who's feeding the horses?" Well, you know, Shannon. One of the beautiful things about technology today that we have available is that we can get right on this. So while you're asking me those questions, I thought, hey, let's pop up the video and we'll throw one out there. You know, when you're talking about gaming in general and pre-planning and all this other stuff, well, we go through a lot of effort to have a line of progression, who gets to go first, who's going to act second, assuming, of course, the initiative rolls and or the GM allows for the layout, the lineup to be effective. But you know, a lot of players and a few GMs, especially new ones, have a tendency to forget some of the basics and basic common sense things. And when I consider, a mechanical based game, this is where we really try to adhere to the rules as much as possible, including some of the expanded rules and things like encumbrance and fatigue and feed and care of your transports. Hey, if you got a horse, ask a paladin. Any paladin or cavalier worth his salt looks after his animal twice as much as he looks after himself and always puts the horse first. So what happens when your group who's traveled, I don't know, 100 leagues from the nearest big community and to go slay the ogres that are terrorizing the local farming communities or raid the rogue's lair from the local thieves guild or try to I don't know beard the dragon. Yeah, good luck with that one, boys. Anyway, what happens to your loyal steeds, your rides? I can't tell you how many campaigns, how many games where I've had players can come up with some pretty elaborate ways to stake out, put their horses out, put them on a stake, put them on a rope, build a little corral for them, what have you, and even go so far as to throw up some illusions and put some traps out and so on and so forth to protect them, which is fine and dandy. But you go down into a dungeon crawl, into a deep delve dungeon or an elaborate castle setup that it could conceivably take your players several 3 days or more to clear out or to get through or to escape from. If things don't quite go the way they want them to, or what happens if the tunnel comes out, 20 miles away, and you have to make that long slog back on foot, cross country, or back through the dungeon that you came through. Either way, by the time you get back, a animals need food and water, and they need it regularly. Now, while you can argue that they have grazing, they can graze the grass nearby, but there's a limit to that if you want to play the mechanics on it. Water, well, you could put out some water for them, but then there's that. I like to roll that critical fail once a day. The chances are slim, but hey, what happened if one of the damn horses kicked over the water duck bucket, or a tree fell on something? But then there's the wild animals. So I've always, as a GM, always considered it appropriate to go back at the pause of the game. So when they say, "Oh, we're going to pause for the day," and I'll say, "Okie doke," and pull out my dice and give them a spin, and then they'll say, "Hey, what was that about?" And I said, "Well, I'm making a random roll encounter for your transports for your horses." And or whatever it is they are. See what happens. Now you can argue that your horses are super smart and super intelligent. Now that's another set of categories altogether. It is possible. Ask Trigger. Silver. I don't know. Lassie. Okay. It's possible you have an above average intelligence steed and it potentially capable of defending itself and or roaming wild and coming back when you whistle. But that doesn't apply for everybody. Unless you've got it very elaborate setup to for that one super intelligent animal to herd over the rest. Okay, then there's also the chance of random folk, just like you, random adventurers or humanoids or whatever, a local farmer coming by and discovering these fine animals stuck out here in the middle of nowhere, apparently seemingly abandoned. Well, that's where that random fail comes into play. Meanwhile, if you're into the mechanical rule side of things, like I like to play sometimes, and I like that sort of stuff. I'll keep a running little chart, every many days. Okay, well, you put out enough water for 4 days, enough food for 4 days. We calculate there's enough grass here for 4 days. The fifth day, they out. And I start making two rolls, one to see if something comes by and gets them, and one to see if they get out, because they're not going to stick around and die if they can help it. And if they can't get out, then they start taking damage, just like a character would. If a character's under the fatigue rules or under, not provided himself enough nourishment, there are mechanics in the game systems, at least most of them, that allow for this sort of thing, and I like to play it out. So it is feasible, and for people to come back. Now, cause and effect. I do like my cause and effect, my friends. The advantages of cause and effect is, in this case, uh, you know, I've run into several groups of people who are callous, cold and callous when it comes to their transports, because they don't think nothing of them. It's just another tool, another fictional piece of item on a paper list, and they don't really, they're not horse people. Now, I've played with other horse people, so I know that they know the difference. You don't treat these things as an inanimate object or an item that can be discarded at whim, and there are people who do that, and that's fine if that's what you want to do from the get go, right? But I believe in now Dungeons and Dragons, depending on what versions you go in, did have something that affected things like reputation. I know the old Star Wars system for West End Games definitely had reputation. The newer one does too. Are you infamous or famous? Okay. So in this case, and my Stellar Frontiers has negative appliers for dealing with negotiations and for dealing with merchants. In this aspect, if you become known for abandoning your horses to their fate, or letting them die on a regular basis, word gets around. And those people who are in the business of selling and raising horses are horse people. And not all of them are greedy. They're going to come back and they're going to look at you sideways and either charge you more for your next set of horses, or, we just don't have any stock right now. The ones we got, we can't sell because they're for breeding, and they're good being a lot of that. Why don't you try Crooked Joe over there? He's got some lame ones you might want to study. But cause and effect. So, if your players insist on playing, a shipshod manner or a callous manner, make them pay for it. Give them some negative modifiers for future dealings with this line of stuff. Now, you might say, though, at some point, well, the group gets powerful enough that they can get magical steeds, and you just pull your figurine out, blah blah blah, boom, or you cast a spell, and that's fine, that's great. And if that happens fast, then it's not an issue. This is a non-issue. But if you have a tendency to play long campaigns, and I'm a big fan of long campaigns, I'm talking campaigns that can last a year or longer, where we play 50, 40, 50 game sessions with the same characters. Ideally the same characters in the same realm, following a path where past has affects the future, and you build on your fame and your reputation or your infamy, and so on and so forth. And so that's important. So good, it's a good question, Shannon. Who is, feeding the horses?